Welcome to the Elite BSC podcast, where our entire focus is helping commercial janitorial contractors succeed. You want a growing company, a thriving team, and healthy profits, and we are here to help. My name is Jordan Tong. I'm the founder of Elite BSC, a company dedicated to helping janitorial companies grow and thrive. I also serve as CEO and one of the owners of Frantz Building Services. Frantz is a janitorial company employing nearly 600 people. Since 2007, we grew from $1.5 million to more than $20 million in annual revenue and built what I think is one of the best teams in the world. The goal of Elite BSC and this podcast is to give owners in the industry a vision of where their company can be and the information and tools to get there. I want to share what I have learned over the years to make this a reality for you. Hey guys, it's Jordan here with Elite BSC. Today I'm recording this episode in a different location with a different microphone. So my audio may sound a little bit echoey today. But hey, the topic today is I got another audio recording of an interview that Jeff and I did together, and something it's on YouTube, so I apologize if it's something you've already listened to. But it's the idea of Jeff. We sort of flipped the script, and Jeff interviews me on this particular interview, and the topic is my role at Frantz, and particularly how I went from being sort of the president or sort of in charge of the operations in the day-to-day at Frantz to moving out of that role into maybe a more visionary role, and what that looked like. But just maybe to tee this up, and as I listen to this again, one of the challenges is it's difficult to, we like to put things in nice, neat categories, and sometimes it's not always that. So we talk about the book Traction and sort of their distinction between integrator and visionary, or you call it president and CEO. And, certainly at our company, we don't necessarily, if we're talking about Brian and I, who's our company president, and also one of the owners, neither one of us fall neatly into one of those roles. I mean, Brian certainly embodies much of the visionary qualities as well. And so, and you'll hear this a bit in there as I'm talking, is, one of my challenges, and I suspect a challenge for any leader, is figuring out what is my role, and particularly if you're an owner, because you don't have someone defining that for you. And so understanding where are my strengths and what am I good at, where should I contribute, what is my role, and what is best for the organization, for the people that I'm responsible for. And so that's always been a challenging question for me. And you'll hear in this podcast, I think I found that it was important, for instance, to pass the torch off to someone else that was better in a particular role than me. And that was hard on me in some ways, and it still is at times. But it was the right thing for the organization, and it better suited everyone, including Brian and myself, for that. And so the new challenge for me has been, okay, now what next for me? What things at Frantz do I need to stay involved or around with? And then what new things do I need to move towards that are exercising my gifts that I have in a productive, meaningful way that is benefiting others and perhaps benefiting the company as a whole. And that's what I've tried to do with Elite and CTU and some of the other things that I'm involved in. So I hope this conversation is helpful. If you don't find yourself neatly in a certain category, that's okay. I'm certainly not found neatly in any of these categories myself. But I think this is a good exercise for all leaders to be thinking about, and because we're always having to plan and sort of plot our course and execute on it. And so we need to constantly be reassessing our role and where we fit and what we should be doing next. So I hope this interview is helpful. And if I can ever be of help to anyone, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to chat. Enjoy.
Hey, Elite BSCs, this is Jeff. I hope you're doing well. Today, or in this video, we're going to flip the script a little bit, where I'm going to be asking most of the questions, and Jordan is going to respond to the questions. And so this particular subject that we're going to talk about today is the CEO visionary role within an organization. And so specifically, we're going to talk about some things like, when do we know it's time to get out of the day-to-day, and just some of really what a person who gets into that role, what that role looks like when they get there. And so kind of to set this up, if I think it would be good to set this up for everybody, is to kind of take us through, your journey from joining the company to getting to that point where you said, hey, it's time to make that transition, and what were kind of the next steps to get that in place?
Yep. Yeah. So when I graduated college, I worked for a large construction development company, and my degree was in engineering, and lived in Nashville for a while. But I wanted, from the very get-go, I was a bit entrepreneurial and wanted to do something on my own. And my parents said, hey, you want to move back home and be a part of the family business? And I really didn't know what that entailed at all, but I was like, sure, that sounds great. It put me in the driver's seat of what I wanted to do from a career standpoint. And so I joined Frantz in 2007. And my parents were still very active in the business. My dad was very involved. He sort of ran the day-to-day of the organization. And I just sort of jumped in doing some sales work, doing some operations work. We didn't really know what my role was going to be. Yeah. And so I started doing some operations, and I started doing some sales work, and then we looked to expand into a new area. So I probably spent 3 or 4 years working sort of in the business, doing various things, trying to put some systems together. We had some consultants we worked with, and we were trying to figure things out. But I knew probably within the first few years that being in the day-to-day operations wasn't necessarily where I thrived, because I'm more entrepreneurially bent. So I enjoy sales and marketing and growth and that whole piece of things, and then sort of the vision and that and where we're going in strategy and that sort of thing. And it's not that, operations in our business is hard and it can be difficult.
Sure, right.
But just no matter what I do, because I've done other things in construction and other businesses, and that's just sort of the way that I'm wired. And so as time unfolded, we started building a management team and various roles. It became obvious to me that it would be better if there was someone in a role that was managing day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even particularly good at it. I can do it, but I wasn't particularly good at it.
Yeah.
And so in 2011, we hired Brian Lewis, and he was brought on to run one of our regions, and he quickly showed himself capable and competent and began to oversee maybe 2 different regions at one time, and then all of operations, and then HR was brought in under him and sales under him, and to the point where he was the president of the company at some point along the way.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you used the term there, you mentioned being entrepreneurial. And I guess the question is, and just I'd love to hear what you say about this, is do you think that anyone that has those type of tendencies, entrepreneurial tendencies, is always going to want to get to the CEO visionary role as quickly as possible?
Yeah, not necessarily. As we've done consulting work, and you probably have noticed this too, I think everybody's just, God has wired people all differently.
Yeah.
And what they enjoy doing, and their background experiences, and all that sort of thing. And so I do find that a lot of I find there's sort of a mix. Yeah. Owners are either bent towards operations, or they are bent towards sales and marketing. They're sort of wired in one of those directions, typically. Yeah. And we're all entrepreneurs, so we've all decided to get into this. Right. Most people did not say, "Hey, I'm gonna start a cleaning company." We just sort of found ourselves here and thought we could make something happen. Yeah. And so some entrepreneurs are, I don't want to pigeonhole anybody, they're more operations focused. And I know some who've stayed in that particular seat for a decent amount of time. Yeah. And others that are more sales and marketing oriented. Yeah. But usually what ends up happening is as the company evolves, the owner or the entrepreneur starts shedding. You're the CEO initially. You're the chief everything officer. So you're doing HR and sales, and you start shedding the ones that, hey, someone else could do a better job than me, or I hate doing this particular thing. Yeah. And usually there's 1 or 2 remaining things that they hold on to for a bit longer. Yeah,
but would you say this? Would you say, hey, in order for a company to scale at a certain point, that role of CEO visionary has to emerge, or you're kind of hitting a ceiling because that CEO visionary role plays an important purpose in pushing the company forward?
For sure. Yeah, I think, and I know we've both seen this. There's the owner is often like the lid in the organization.
Yeah, right.
And the traction,
is it Traction? The
Yes,
book? The Wickman book. Yeah, the EOS system. They talk about at the beginning of the book letting go of the vine, and it's basically this concept that the owner needs to be able to let go a bit to let the company evolve.
Yeah.
And really, a test of your leadership is whether or not you can start to remove yourself from things and the company be better for it.
Yeah. And initially, if you're getting to that point, and I don't, we don't have numbers on this, but probably when you begin to look outside the organization to bring somebody in that could run things, we were probably in the maybe 3 to 4 million range, maybe a little bit bigger.
You're probably a little bit bigger. When I started really thinking about knowing someone else, in particular, part of this was Brian was on our team, and I recognized I had someone on the team who was capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And in order to keep him, he needed that headroom.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to honor that, and I thought it was best for the organization as well.
Yeah. And so to go back to this real quick, so if there's somebody listening and you've got to bend towards being more operationally focused, so if you look at that EOS chart, that's more of an integrator role. You don't necessarily have to go out and say, well, I got to hire somebody that's, I'm the owner of the company, I got to hire somebody above me. You just need maybe you could hire a counsel or somebody that would come in, a mentor that kind of fills that role and helps you think about the things that a CEO might need to think about.
Because at the end of the day, really, if you own the company, you have to step into that visionary role. You sort of don't have an option.
Right.
It is one of the things that I think that you can't unload ever onto someone else until you give up that responsibility totally.
Right. That's right.
Otherwise, you'll be an employee in the organization working for whoever the visionary is.
Yeah.
And that's okay if that's where you want to go. But I think the owner, the entrepreneur, at some point has to step into that visionary role.
Part of the thing is also thinking, where do you get your energy from? Like Patrick Lencioni's got the Working Genius, and it talks about not just about your giftedness, but where you get your energy. So if you do get your energy from operations, it's going to be important that you stay in there for some period of time until you feel like that somebody can come along and feel that better than you. But again, like you can't ever get out of ultimately getting towards the visionary role.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think for people who are doing that are more operations bent, you're probably going to have your hand in operations, maybe even for the long haul, a little bit more, because you're better at that, and you can add value to the organization. Because you're constantly asking yourself, how do I add value to the organization now?
Yeah.
And as it grows, that gets harder to figure out sometimes. It has been a challenge for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
but a part of it is just you want to find energy, you want to find joy in doing your work, and so being plugged into some of those things is important. So let's assume that you find energy in the visionary role, which I think that you do. What are 2 or 3 things that you've been able to focus on once Brian kind of got settled in that day-to-day operations, president of the company, running the day-to-day? What are 2 or 3 of the things that you began to say, hey, now I can really turn my attention to these things?
Yeah. So I would say, and I think about things that you can't unload on somebody else, at least now. The whole mission, vision, values thing, and you could say the culture sort of wraps up in all of that, is one place that needs focus and attention. And maybe initially that's leading the charge, and then later on, as that maybe gets established a little bit, you become sort of a watchdog and a protector of the boundaries of that thing.
Sure.
And always with an eye on that.
And kind of rubber hits the road on that. That means things like when we pull all of our managers together, or when we have a group, you are kind of the person that's out in front of the company talking about the mission, vision, values, what we stand for, all of those things. You keep an active role in that.
Yep. And it just always, I feel the need to always be here to be able to observe that with my eyes and ears. As well, so that we don't lose sight of that.
Okay, so what a couple others?
Yep. So I think another one would be spending. I'll make this one 2-part as well. Spending time with key leaders in the organization, and this is something I say all this knowing I don't do all this very well. Spending time with key leaders in the organization. Part of what I think about is I want to make sure I think about the key 3-4 people in the leadership roles. Okay. I want to make sure that they're happy, that they enjoy their job, that they're bought in, that we're building something that they want to be a part of for the long haul.
Yeah, knocking down barriers that get in the way, maybe.
Yeah,
of
that's
really
right.
Them
Yeah.
doing what
So
they
maybe
do.
one person has an entrepreneurial itch, and
Yeah.
so, like for instance, Brian has an entrepreneurial itch as well.
Yeah.
And so we're working on some things that benefit the company, that benefit him, that sort of scratch that itch as well. So just sort of being in tune with some of those things, and then also, and this ties to culture too, is being on the lookout and maybe being the final arbiter on, yes, we want this person on our leadership team.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of key hires over the years that I've been involved in that I think were important and strategic. And then maybe number 3 would be the idea of where else can I add value?
Yeah.
And so over time, that has not necessarily been in the organization as a whole. It's maybe come from things outside the organization a little bit. Now, one of the pitfalls you can fall into here is a lot of owners, they get shiny stuff syndrome, and they start, this is going well, and so they start, I'm going to start a plumbing business, and I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to sell stuff on Amazon, and you can just sort of lose sight. So thinking about what can I do, maybe because I am an entrepreneur a bit, what can I do to add value? So maybe it's I'm looking for acquisitions, and I'm spending time focused on that particular piece. Or maybe there are some new business opportunities that may relate to the cleaning company that don't take away from it. So for me, Elite and the marketing stuff that we do, and CTU and those things obviously tie in really well to what we're trying to accomplish at Frantz as well. So,
and it really kind of, going back to what you enjoy doing and where you get energy, it scratches your itch of doing things that keep you really plugged in and motivated. But they're within the industry, and so it's kind of best of both worlds. Yeah, in that regard. All right, so let's talk about someone who sees the need to move into that visionary role. It's maybe not the time to do it, and or they still enjoy certain aspects of the business, like sales or customer relationships, for instance. How do you navigate? What advice would you give someone who needs to navigate moving into that CEO visionary role and still being involved in some parts of the business without coming across as meddling in in people's business?
Yeah, you don't want to meddle, because I do that. I think that will crush the leadership vibe you're trying to build there.
Yeah.
So anybody that is in the right person in the right seat, they do not want you meddling.
Yeah, right.
They want to know what the expectations are, and that maybe they're held accountable to those,
Sure.
but they don't want you meddling in that role. So I think this is where the traction book is helpful. That whole accountability chart is building out the various roles, and maybe at the earlier stages of the company, the CEO or visionary may fill in other boxes of responsibility. So often I see the sales role.
Yeah, right.
The owner maintains that for a long time. They make the key sales.
Yeah.
Then maybe they hire someone that's doing some telemarketing and outreach efforts, or building proposals, and then maybe even someone who's doing walkthroughs and they're presenting or whatever.
Sure.
Operations could be the same thing. Maybe I'm going to maintain relationships with top 10 customers, or that sort of thing. But really carving out, here's the role that I'm going to fill. I'm almost an employee in the company as I do this role.
Yeah, sure.
And then I have my CEO visionary role here, and holding people accountable in their various roles.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the real benefits of the EOS system, is it kind of defines. I like the accountability chart versus org chart. So you could be the CEO, owner of the company on paper, but also within this EOS framework, what you've got is you're fulfilling a role and really kind of working through the integrator to get all the things that are done in the beginning. So this has been very good. If you want to have a conversation about this particular subject, if you're in that stage where you're thinking, hey, I need to make that move, certainly you can call me. You can talk to Jordan. He's been through it. But if there's anything else that we can help you with, just feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see you next time.
If you found the information in this podcast helpful, please like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you're using. If you would like more resources or help to grow your cleaning company, head over to elitebsc.com. We have loads of articles, videos, free tools, coaching options, and a lot more. If your company is greater than $500K in revenue and you want to take your learning experience to the next level, check out our mastermind group. You can learn more about that at elitebsc.com/mastermind.